The Pillars of the Earth by Jonathan Evans. The Gloucester Road is much quieter than usual, but there are still plenty of folks about, more than I would have figured. I've just been out for a run around the docks, and on my way home I've decided to pick up a couple of bits and pieces. There's a queue outside of Joe's bakery. This is because they're only letting in 2 customers at a time, which is a good thing, and doesn't take me long to get to the front of the queue. When I enter, I see Jess and Morgan working flat out. Even though she's busy, Jess takes the time to ask, "How are you, Jonathan?" I like this. I like being called by my name when I go into the shop. I tell her I'm doing just fine, and I wish them well as I take my bread and some pizza dough. Just outside the shop I bump into Derby Boy. His real name's Chris. Years ago he used to run the movie bank just along the road. I call him Derby Boy, not because he's from Derby, but because for some reason he supports Derby County Football Club, sworn enemies of my team, Nottingham Forest. So whenever we meet we have a laugh, and whenever the 2 teams play we go to the pub, watch it together. We're both heading for the Spanish delicatessen. Derby Boy's picking up some wine and some paella. I'm picking up some olives for the pizza. When we arrive, the place is empty. No sign of David, the owner, so Derby Boy yells out, "Hurry up! We'll all be dead by the time we get served." David scurries back behind the counter, laughs at the joke. "At times like this," he says, "laughter is a good thing, eh? You English have an expression, I think, gallows humour, is it right?" Back outside, and Derby Boy's telling me all about his ailments. Sometimes I think he's the sick man of Europe. But on balance, that title has got to go to my brother Richard. And as soon as I get home, sure enough, he's on the phone about his latest malady as soon as I get through the door. Before I go, it's worth me telling you a bit about Richard's fantastic medical history. When he was a young kid, Richard got polio. And he recovered from that. And in his 30s, he collapsed while training for the London Marathon. And 3 months before the race, had to have a heart pacemaker. This was in 1982, and he and I were due to run the race together. Amazingly, we did, because Richard was given one of the very first on-demand pacemakers in the UK, and he became the first person in the world to run a marathon with one. He finished in just over 3 hours and became, as they say, famous for 15 minutes. It was about that time that his 3rd and most serious illness kicked in, and this was the one that's proved to be most problematic. The symptoms are always the same. He'll hear a report from some far-flung place about a disease you've never heard of, and 2 days later he'll be on the blower to me describing the symptoms and asking if I think he's got it. So far I've had bulletins on Lassa fever, Chagger's disease, leprosy, Red River blindness, Ebola, dengue fever. On one famous occasion, Marburg's monkey virus. As he trots out his latest symptoms, I feel like one of those doctors from the Hollywood movies, knowing that I have the power to kill or cure him. I remember one day he phoned me up in a real panic. "I'm a bit worried. I've got a lump on my left testicle." He waited for my response. "Are you sure that lump's not on your right testicle?" He laughed. "Oh, seriously, you had something like this, didn't you?" "Yeah," I replied. "Weren't you referred to a specialist?" "Yeah." What happened?" "Well, when I got there, I thought I'd be seen by an expert in testicular cancer, but it turned out that he was in fact an expert in hypochondria." "And you know the big problem with hypochondria?" I asked. "No." "It's incurable." He laughed again. Today, somehow, we got talking about our mum, Madge. When she was in her 80s, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. It didn't seem to faze her. Rather, she started taking an interest in all sorts of new things. One day, I remember she was reading a novel, Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth. "I really don't think I've lived properly," she said, wistfully, out of the blue. "Why is that? You've travelled all over the world. You've got 6 kids. I reckon you've had a pretty rich life." "Well, in some respects, yes, but I've never done that." "What? Well, you know, what Ken Follett writes about." I was puzzled. I've never ever read a Ken Follett book. What do you mean? I asked. She unwrapped an opal fruit, put it in her mouth, and she leant forward and said those immortal words. Oral sex. I laughed so much I almost had a double hernia. And thinking about it, it still makes me smile, but it also makes me think about our uncertain future with the coronavirus. So I've started planning. I have prepared myself for the inevitable daily updates on my brother's state of health, and I've got a copy of the world's most comprehensive medical dictionary at hand. Also, as soon as I build up the courage, I'm going to go down to the Amnesty International bookstore and buy a selection of Ken Follett books to see if there's anything that I've been missing out on. Take care. Okay, be safe. And if you happen to see me meandering down the Gloucester Road, be sure to give me a wide berth.